Today on Hampton Roads Business Weekly, an explosion knocks out a local eatery for weeks. It's part 2 of my interview with Phil Decker of D-Egg.
Plus, how 2 moms got into the BO business.
Get ready, we have all this and more on Hampton Roads Business Weekly starting right now.
Hello and welcome to Hampton Roads Business Weekly, a look at the businesses and entrepreneurs making a difference right here in Hampton Roads. I'm Cheryl Tan.
And I'm Zach Miller. We start today by looking at cybersecurity, specifically ways you can train your employees to be safe when using company computers.
All right, we're going to talk about cybersecurity and how you can train your employees to make sure that they're not doing some bad things on your computers that could potentially affect you. We're here with Jeff Heyman from Regent University. How's it going?
Doing very well. Glad to be here. Thank you, Zach.
You're very welcome. So I have a small team at Hatch, and hopefully they aren't on Facebook or using the computers that we supply them for bad things. I'm just kidding. I know you guys are safe doing things, but for someone that might not, or just by accident, it gets ransomware or malware on the computer. How can you train your staff to prevent that? And then I guess if it does happen, to make sure that craziness doesn't happen.
The phrase is best to learn from your mistakes. Well, it's even better to learn from other people's.
Yep.
So I will be in the news. I would find businesses equivalent of yours where people have done stupid things. And large corporations, hospitals, agencies, law enforcement, everybody does stupid stuff occasionally. Sure. We all do, myself, yourself, everybody. The key is to educate people before it happens. Try to avoid the real stupid ones. Here's a classic, and it happened to a large federal organization. A guy with malware, call him Bob, he took a bunch of thumb drives, put his malware on them, dropped them in a parking lot of a major DoD organization. All it takes is one person, I'm being very friendly there, to take that thumb drive, go to his computer, which is attached to the network, and he's infected everybody. So the first thing
So he did that intentionally or not intentionally?
Well, he didn't know malware, but he said, oh, a thumb drive, let's see what this is on.
Right.
For a small business, the equivalent that would be is somebody wanders through your store or your business and drops a thumb drive on the floor. First thing is to train your employees, never ever plug in anything into the company network or the business computer that you did not give them. That goes any thumb drive they find, any thumb drive they bring from home. No, it doesn't get plugged into the USB port.
What about things from the internet? How do you know?
Very good. We all get emails, we get email attachments. Now you get URL, hey, go to this link, you'll see the top 10 kittens and stuff like, well, everybody wants to see top 10 kittens and puppies. Don't do it. If you get, oh, this will be really interesting because I'm really into NASCAR, check out this. Well, if you're really into NASCAR, don't click that URL, get the topic they was talking about, Google it on your own time or stuff. Don't click the URL. Don't click the URL.
All right, so this is interesting. So I run a company, and a lot of the stuff that we do is through email marketing.
Yes.
Right? We're hopefully incentivizing someone or enticing them to click that link to then go to our website, to then consume some sort of content, to then maybe funnel them down into purchasing something. But you're saying that from a safety standpoint, don't?
We're talking security.
Yeah.
Don't click the URL because if you're dealing with someone you don't know, that's how I would get ransomware onto your system.
Well, what if you do know that person, right?
Then it's a judgment call. Would you open the attachment they sent you? If you answer, well, I'd send this is Bob. I deal with him every day. Send me a picture of his kids. He says, okay, I'll click on the attachment. You're going to get some attachments you will click on, but it's a level of trust. But a URL, make sure it's a business URL. When we're talking about, you can put the cursor over it. And if the URL is like 20 characters long, you put the cursor over, and the characters run off the screen. You've probably got a problem.
Are you seeing that someone gets infected early, and then how long a period before they know?
Good question. 2 things. If you hit it and it's just an irritant, which is all the pop-ups start happening, whatever it may be, whatever advertisement, you're just getting hit with some bad advertising. That happens. You'll know it right away.
Sure.
The big scary thing is ransomware. And that is when you click on something.
Does it say ransomware?
It might even give you the name of the ransomware because it's not going to try to hide it. Because most people will call law enforcement and say, what do I got? And they have the profiles of all of them. It says you've been hit with the CryptoLocker virus. You've been hit with Acme ransomware 222, the newest version. And you have 96 hours and it'll start clicking down.
Right.
If it popped up right when you clicked it, you'd at least know where to restore from. That would be a good thing. But the problem, you don't know how far back that goes. So that's going to be a leadership judgment of you as the CEO or the small business owner and say, hey, we're going to pull the backup that Dave did for me 2 weeks ago and just go with that.
How do you know that that backup is?
You don't. You don't. How do you know the airbag is going to save your life in a car crash? I'd rather have a crash with an airbag, but you don't know for sure.
So practicing to be safe the entire time.
And give your employees, if you have to teach them, we all want to look at the latest CNN or something. I understand that. And we all want to have our phone with us to check, something's happened to the kid or something, absolutely. But a policy such as, hey guys, I want you to do that, but why don't you just take an extra 5 minutes on your break, whatever your break policy, please do that away from the work computer.
So ultimately keeping things personal and keeping things
separate.
professional.
Keep it separate. There's always going to be some bleed over, but start off hard and try to keep it separate.
Jeff, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey gang, we have more to come, but first we want to hear from you. If you have comments or questions about the show, tweet us at HRBizWeekly. You can also head on over to our website, hrbusinessweekly.com, for previous shows and segments.
Do you have stinky kids at home? How about trying Rock Tough or Sick Nasty Defense on them? This is all natural deodorant. Hear from the co-founders of Smiley Pits all natural deodorant coming up. How do you validate a product idea? That's the question we're asking these two startup business owners, Sarah Salter and Christy Joint, the co-founders of Smiley Pits. It's an all-natural deodorant. Thank you both for joining us today. Welcome. Let's talk about the idea first, the product. And I know, Christy, you came up with it. Talk about how you came up with this all-natural deodorant idea.
Well, it was really just a hobby for me. It was kind of something fun to do. I decided that I wanted to go natural. I tried a lot of the different natural deodorants and they really did not work for me. And I did this over the middle of the summer. It was 100 degrees outside, so I really tested myself and my friendships. But I was, nothing worked. So I just started researching each individual ingredient and I tried to find out, what worked best. And I just kept tweaking it until, I couldn't smell myself anymore when I was, at the gym or playing tennis. So I knew it worked. And, it was probably 6 months later, we were having a conversation in the gym about how natural deodorants, it's hard to find a good one. So I told them that I had a great one. I'll give them the recipe and I'll make them some. And that afternoon was the same afternoon that Sarah called me.
So good timing. That's when you came in. And did you see or smell a business idea at that point in time?
It took me a couple of days, but yes. My son David came home from lacrosse. Well, let me go back a little bit. I called Christy and said, what are you doing? Just like a friend. What's up? I'm making deodorant. Oh. Okay, well, hey, can I have some? I want some of that deodorant. My son David came home from lacrosse around that time, and he stunk. And I read about, mainstream deodorant and aluminum, and I didn't want to put that on my child. And so I got some deodorant from Christy. I used it on David, and I used it on myself, and I said, oh my gosh, this works. I said, we need to go into business together. We need to sell this. This is something, you've got something here. But then it came as to how can we differentiate ourselves? How can we be different? Because there's so many natural deodorants on the market. And our best resources and people around us are our families. So we all got together and for our pit family meeting, which it became later, and we came up with the idea of Smiley Pits. So it was a deodorant for kids because we wanted to have a niche. We wanted something that would make us different. So we started with deodorant for kids and then evolved to ages 4 to 104. And our kids named all the scents. We literally gave them each a notebook. They went upstairs. They wrote down some hilarious names.
Yeah, there was like 50 potential names.
And then we came up with the scents that we have.
That's great. I love how you turn this hobby into a business. What I also love, though, is you knock on doors. So you go to fairs, you go to festivals, you go places to get your idea out there. So talk about that hard work that you did before you realized that, or when you realized that it could be something more.
Okay, well, no opportunity for us is too small of an opportunity. Any time that we can go somewhere and get the word out about our Smiley Pits, we are going to be there. We are going to try to be there because you never know who you're going to meet, who you're going to talk to, and what that will lead to.
And you've actually you're in places, like you're in Whole Foods,
Yes.
and you're in more than one Whole Foods. So talk about how you made that happen, how you made that connection, and what you did to get on shelves there.
Okay, I'll tell you exactly what I did. I Googled, how do you get your product into Whole Foods?
Nice.
in a natural or a body in the whole body department. And I followed the directions. Prior to that, I knew we had to have something different. We couldn't just be a natural deodorant because there are so many natural deodorants on the market. So the deodorant for kids, that would bring us to the kids aisle. There are no deodorants really on the kids aisle. And I knew that Christy created something so awesome that once we were on that kids aisle, the parents would see it too, and we would be moved. And almost, I think, is it in 9 of the Whole Foods? Is it 9 out? It's a good number. We're in both aisles or in the deodorant set, as they call it. But I pretty much Googled, how do you get your product into Whole Foods?
So I know you're still a startup, and there's definitely room to grow. What's next for Smiley Pits?
But we're just trying to grow our online business to try to make that more of a presence, because that gets us out of Virginia, gets us in all the other states. We've actually had a couple of people from Canada interested. So, I mean, small baby steps is how we're taking it.
Right.
And we're going to a Natural Products Expo East in September, which we're very excited about in Baltimore. And that's where there are going to be companies from all over that are there, and 26,000 people actually attend this event that we're able to, share our Smiley Pits with in some sort of way. So every contact and every person, I think it's believing in people. Believe in the power of sharing what you have with someone else and expecting the good and knowing that they'll go share it, and then the sky's the limit. And that's what we believe, and that's how we're going to continue to move forward.
It's all about relationships,
It is
right?
all about relationships.
Christy, Sarah, congratulations, and thanks for sharing your story with us. We'll be
Thank you.
following.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So you're in business for 14 years and disaster happens and you have to figure out what to do next. We're here with Phil Decker of D-Egg. Thanks for being with us, Phil.
Thank you for having me again, Zach.
So 14 years in business, one of the most popular spots in town, but then disaster happened last year and you had to close for several weeks, renovations. You had to put in a lot of money for the renovation, several $100,000. When you knew that the renovations had to happen, how did you know that stay in that spot? How much money could you afford? Did you keep saving, bank loan? What was that whole process
All
like?
great questions, Zach. I started day one. My old man always said, save your money. I started really putting away money in savings, my retirement, and that's really what I went into when all of this started happening. And I spent most of my money. I tried not to borrow any money on the renovation. And
So you put in your own cash into the renovation?
The majority, yeah. I did borrowed a little bit, but I tried not to borrow a bunch because, as you know, when you open a business and you're borrowing money, you're paying taxes on that money that you're paying back to the bank. A lot of people don't really, they think that's a business expense. It's not. So, I did. It was huge decisions, and most people, you get into a project like that, and I had really had a worst case scenario on a number, and I've been in this business and I've done this so many times, and I still overspent what I had budgeted, even worst case scenarios.
How much?
A lot, probably double. And I really,
Wow.
I really, you think you know what you're doing, and it's tough. Once you get into a building as old as ours, the Seldon Arcade's over 100 years old, 130 years old, and so once you get into a building like that, walls are just, the bricks weren't built the same back then.
But why not go to a different location then? If
We were in, it's a great question, but we were in position A. To be next to one convention center is great. To be in between two is epic.
So it was worth the risk to be there.
We're in position A, and I mean, I'm not a spring chicken anymore, and I basically am starting over, and this next 10 years is my run, and this is where I want to be.
Walk us through kind of the process now, because you're in a position now where you're probably at 60% capacity.
Yep.
You've reopened to the world, but you have a facade that is not done, and people have to basically walk through a cave.
It's a construction zone you're walking through to get to us.
Like, how do you market that?
Impossibly. It's very difficult. It's a bunch of word of mouth. We've really got a much better internet presence now, and what we've done is consolidated both of our menus. It went from a 6-page menu to a 2-page menu, and they're both same at both restaurants. We've taken all of our employees now, and the kitchen guys at West can work at the diner, and the waitresses at the diner can work at West. So it really.
How'd you learn the psychology of the menu? Do you watch a lot of those those TV shows like Bar Rescue and stuff to teach you that kind of stuff?
I mean, I'm very aware of my menu. I'm aware of numbers. I was very fortunate to be brought up in the bar business where I learned to read P&L sheets. And a lot of people, you know, when any of those restaurant shows you watch, that's the one thing that the guy comes in and says, what is your percentages? You got to know your percentages. I know my food costs, my labor costs, you got to know that.
How do you read a P&L? Or how were you taught to read a P&L?
Well, for our industry, and every industry is different, you know, you want your food cost in my industry to be around 28% cost of goods. You want your labor cost to be no higher than 30%. You got, in this city, we have a 12.5% sales tax. So when you start chopping that down, you're down to 70% without counting your rent, without counting your power, without counting. So if you can get down to making 14% net on your money, you're doing pretty good.
Last episode, we talked about maybe you throwing in the towel. You didn't. You're all in now. You're almost at full capacity, reopening soon. How does it feel?
I mean, honestly, I feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and there was. And
you can see it.
I can see it. I mean, we were down. I mean, it's just, and business will do that to you. It'll punch you in the gut, and we were just punched in the gut and stomped in the head. And
when that hits, what do you do to get out of it?
I mean, you got to be resilient. You got to stick to your guns, and I mean, we've done it before, and I felt like we could do it again. Just being positioned with the main, this thing is going to blow up downtown. This is going to be crazy. I was at the beach when they opened the Hilton at the beach, and the people really don't understand the effect that this place is going to have on this region, especially the city, and especially downtown.
Well, Phil, appreciate your insights, and thanks for everything.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, meet an event planner who specializes in making all of our clients' wishes come true. We are here today with Ivory Morgan Burton, the owner of Storybook Events, a full-service event planning company. And you also focus on helping brides have a very special day, like a storybook kind of event for them. Thanks so much for talking with us today.
Thank you for inviting me. It's very challenging when you're doing events because it's catching the vision for the client and making sure that you can make all their wishes come true. We kind of have a saying that when a fairy godmother isn't available, a wish consultant is.
I love that. How did you get started in business?
Oh gosh, I had been in floral for years. I started way back in the day as a cosmetologist and owned my own beauty salon. And I've always been in service, working the hours that everybody else has off. And it just led to being a craftsperson and taking all the formal training and getting all the technology and everything that it took to put all the components together. And it's been very helpful because when you do, for example, a wedding, you know immediately what the hairstyle or something should be according to that veil and the components that the bride is putting together. So it helps with a little more customer service and personalization.
Right, so you started very specific with the makeup and then the hair, but now you do it all. You handle the beginning all the way to the end of whatever event. What has that journey been like, going from the specialist to someone who kind of handles the whole thing?
For us, it's learning to stay in your lane and getting the proper professionals to team with you. Cake bakers, linen companies, the hair and the makeup people, going to the right dress boutiques for the gowns, as well as when we do non-for-profits or birthdays or anniversaries or any environment where we're doing a specific look and theme, is to catch the vision, to make sure that we're doing it according to their wishes and their vision of what they thought their event should be like.
I love the partnership aspect, because certainly with as many pieces as you have to handle for an event, you can't do it by yourself. So how do you find the right partners? How do you find the right people to help you create that vision for your customers and your clients?
First thing I look for is their integrity and their willingness to be supportive of the client and their vision. Good customer skills, honesty and integrity as a business, longevity, and all the things that I would want someone to look for in my own business.
What would you say to somebody who sees this industry, the wedding industry, the event planning industry, and says, I want to do that, I want to create a business around that? What would you say to those
Think
people?
it over a lot longer. It isn't as glamorous as everyone thinks it is. It's really wonderful when you finished. and you stand back and you've made their hearts happy and they're enthusiastic and they've got that perfect day in their minds and all the components of that event. But the long road to get there, making sure that you do know your business. Carrying a notebook is not the answer. It's training and constantly upgrading with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding through courses and classes and getting mentors and teaming with people that know more than you know so that you walk away with wisdom and understanding of what you're doing.
Over the time that you've been a business owner, how has your particular industry changed? I mean, I know we're a destination place for a lot of events, for weddings, things like that. I mean, how has that changed for you, maybe for the good or for the bad?
For me, it was started with wanting to try to do it all as far as every style of event, and realizing that I had to be true to myself and my own particular expertise in what I do best. I like bling. That doesn't mean every bride does. That doesn't mean every client wants it, but you learn to tailor specifically and tone down or bring it up according to what your client is looking for. The biggest factor for me has been learning my style, learning my own skill level, and what I think is most appropriate to bring the best to a client.
And then create that storybook ending, right?
Yes, we're believing it's more than happily ever after. It is actually making sure that so many times we say they're planning a wedding, we're planning a marriage. Because I'd like my couples, especially with weddings, paid off as they walk down the aisle, so they're not spending those first few weeks and months worried about how to pay for it, a project and a wedding that's already transpired.
Ivory, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And with that, we wrap up another episode of Hampton Roads Business Weekly.
Make sure you like us on Facebook and Twitter, and then head over to hrbusinessweekly.com to get more information and watch previous shows.
For Hampton Roads Business Weekly, I'm Zach Miller.
And I'm Cheryl Tan. We'll see you next week.
Hampton Roads Business Weekly, sponsored by Regent University and produced by 13 News Now.